Hello.
Hello. Welcome to Girls Gone
Girls Gone
Spooky.
City. I'm Olivia.
And I'm Amy. And what are we talking about today?
We're doing our reruns, baby. This is our second to last episode of the season,
I know. That's
which
crazy.
is bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
Bonkers.
Time
Um,
flies.
okay, well, I literally cut Amy off right before we started recording because we'll reveal our subjects in a minute. But
Yes.
I cut her off right before, and of course, we have to have an opener conversation about the fantasy books we're reading.
Yep.
So,
It's
or
just standard now.
it is standard.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I just finished the second Throne of Glass book, Sarah J. Maas, and it was very
Okay.
good. And then I'm
Yes.
switching back over to the Crescent City ones, and I got the third
Mhm.
one, House of Flame and and the last one
Yay.
ended on such a cliffhanger, as they
Yeah.
always do. So I'm so
Mhm.
freaking excited. What are
Okay.
you reading, Amy?
Well, I just got From Blood and Ash.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, from my hold came in from the library. So I started it.
Armin Trout, is that the author's name?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Jennifer something.
Mhm.
Um it's good so far. I'm only like 7% in. So like very beginning. Yeah. I'm also still listening to Outlander, but
Oh,
I
that's really,
finished a book that I do not recommend, and it was not
oh,
fantasy. It was
what's
like
it?
somebody put it on their list of like more romance, like no fantasy. But
Okay.
this one was about two serial killers who are they
Oh,
fall in love with each other. And it
what the
was
Dexter?
bad. It was yeah, it was like they're both like Dexter because they kill other serial
Wait, what
killers.
was this called? I've come across this.
Yeah, and it's a trilogy. It's called Butcher and Blackbird. I
Ugh.
don't remember the
Hate the title.
I
Hate
know. Yeah, I don't remember the author's name, but I don't recommend it, so you can put it out of your mind. But that's what I finished most recently.
Okay,
So,
anti, not here for that.
yeah. And I have a weird thing about like not finishing books, but if I
You.
were gonna not finish a book, it would have been this one. So,
Oh, that's not.
yeah.
That's low praise.
Can
I
I
also,
just tell you,
yeah.
sorry, the ending of this book, because it's a spoiler. Hopefully, no one is going to read it upon my recommendation.
Okay, he's about to say a spoiler.
Yep.
Fast forward like 15 to 30 seconds. 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Exactly. So the female serial killer, her
Uh,
like signature is taking people's eyeballs out,
no,
which I know you love,
I.
and
God.
they at the very end of this book have killed someone together, the couple,
Okay.
and he's like, you didn't do a good job on the left side, go look at it, and there's a ring box in there, and that's how he proposes to her. I was like, I hate this book so
I.
much.
I'm gonna vomit.
So yeah, it's
I'm gonna
horrible.
On another note, a slightly
Hmm.
related note, I went into the bathroom at work today and someone was like violently vomiting. And
Oh
I was like,
no.
are you okay? Do you need anything? And she, in
Uh-oh.
between heaves, was like, no, thank you so much for asking,
Oh,
though. I was like, oh my God, this poor
poor
girl.
thing.
But that's about to
Oh,
be me.
yeah.
Thinking
Sorry
about
about
that.
that.
That's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Imagine that's your proposal. Like, even as a serial killer, who wants that? That's
Ugh.
horrifying.
I mean, I guess her, if that's her
Yeah.
shtick, it's so
Yeah.
gross.
So,
Um,
anyway, don't read
The
that.
other like very non-fantasy, not romance, not related at all
Hmm.
book that oh my god, I'm like forgetting the name of it now. The one written by the woman who wrote Mockingbird, I think it was called. Oh, mother trucker. I have to look at it now. Oh, I'm so mad at myself. I was like, I'm really happy I finished it because it's like a classic book that people talk about so much. But okay, red
Wait,
book.
like To Kill a Mockingbird? Or,
No,
oh,
Okay, what? Oh God, now I'm not going to be able to find it. Oh no. Okay. Secret History, Donna Tartt. What was the other book called? I thought it was called Mockingbird. It's the one where there's the, oh, sorry, Goldfinch, not
Okay.
Mockingbird.
It's a
Finch.
bird. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bird. But anyway, Donna Tartt, she's like known for these like really rambly, super detailed style, but it was so dry the beginning. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna get through this.
Yeah.
0%, I'm gonna get through this. I did get through it,
You
but
did
I was
it?
like,
Okay.
what the fuck is going on right now?
Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, so that one was tough. Would not necessarily recommend. Actually, I would recommend it because it's excellent, but it's also like, what am I reading right now?
Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay, on that note,
Yeah.
should we dive in?
Yes. Let's do it.
Okay. So thanks for bearing with us, everyone.
Yeah. We might have a spin-off podcast.
We might
We'll
have a
see.
spin-off podcast about romantasy books
Yeah.
because we talk about it for ages. Also, sorry, quick, just going back real quick. I am trying to keep my eyeballs peeled for connections between the Sarah J. Maas books, and I am starting to see them everywhere. And as much as I dread being done with the content that's available from her, I'm also so excited to read all of the spoilers that talk about all like hypothetical connections and theories.
Yeah, I know. People have such impressive like thoughts.
Incredible.
On these.
Like incredible.
Yeah.
And I think maybe if I read them all twice, I probably would be like, oh, this is this.
Yeah.
This,
yeah.
This,
yeah.
This.
Which
But
might end up happening if we run out of other fantasy books.
I'm sure I'll reread them at some point.
Yeah.
They're just so good. They're just so
they are. So entertaining.
Okay, I digress.
Okay.
Back to this.
Here we go.
So, as a reminder, these final 3 episodes are part of a series, and the overarching theme is reruns. So, Amy and I each have picked cool topics that we've covered before, where either we've like come across more content and we're like, oh my God, I need to redo this topic, or it's just so fucking creepy. You just got to say it again. So I'm going to announce mine. I'm going first this week, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to announce mine by its real name, and then I'm going to refer to it by the name that I'm going to really try super hard to use throughout the rest of the episode.
Yes.
It is Skinwalkers. And because these are indigenous lore, we'll call them, there is a very strong preference to not even say the term. And we have said it
many times. Yeah.
I'm really try. It's hard because I'm going to be reading it and have to switch. But, we're going to be using the term coined by Tiff's Ghost Talk on TikTok. She's also on Instagram. Flesh Pedestrian, which I think is the funniest thing I've ever heard. That just like makes it not scary at all.
Yeah.
Well, briefly, but then you start reading stories and you're like, never mind, it's so fucking scary. So that is my topic for today. So I decided to pull a refresher on what is a flesh pedestrian, but from a fresh source. So this is from @BigShot on Reddit, and they describe it as a flesh pedestrian is described as a, quote, malevolent medicine man or an evil witch. And this description is pretty accurate. The term that I will not say is derived from the Navajo phrase, and I'm not going to say it in Navajo because I feel like that's worse. So I'll probably butcher the pronunciation too. So we're just going to skip that.
Good idea.
But it is translated to mean by means of it, it goes on all fours, and then that's shortened in the translation to flesh pedestrian.
Okay.
The way one becomes a flesh pedestrian is, and there are differing theories about this, but I'm just going to share this one because I feel like it's like generally what people believe.
Yeah.
So the way you can become, I mean, not can become, don't try, but the way one becomes a flesh pedestrian is by murdering a family member or something else equally evil, and then skinning an animal and wearing its pelt. There are many more disturbing steps, but I'm not going to get into it in
Yeah.
great detail here. It's commonly believed that you can attract flesh pedestrians by saying the Navajo word or even saying the
That
translated
word.
word,
Yeah.
which a lot of stories you come across, people say about demons, like, don't taunt them, don't make fun. Like, if you're doing a Ouija board, especially, like, do not make jokes, don't make light of it. It's the same thing. Like, oh, we're
Yeah.
not going to see a flesh pedestrian, and then it happens. So it's almost like they're being summoned because they're front of mind. And it
Yeah.
sort of speaks to a lot of the topics we've covered, where it's like, how much power does our energy and our thoughts have? Okay, so even having just a dialogue with them, saying the word could attract them. Some say that's false, that you actually have to say it in Navajo in order for them to appear, but it doesn't always seem to be the case in some
Yeah.
of the stories I've come across. Flesh pedestrians often appear as deer or coyotes, but can appear as any animal that they skin and prep. One of the most iconic abilities,
Iconic. Yeah. Really cool.
is really cool, is vocal mimicry. So they can repeat back in your voice or in someone else's voice, and it's like a luring tactic. Um, but they also possess abilities, including but not limited to, that's how they phrased it, which is so inhuman strength, speed, smell, sight, etc. You will see many people online saying they're worried that their poodle or some other pet is a flesh pedestrian. But the truth is, and this one gave me a lot of comfort, it's actually very uncommon for flesh pedestrians to skin your pets. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely in the way this user put it. So don't worry. Snowball is not looking at you weirdly. He wants to kill you. He just wants dinner. Um, and speaking of dogs, flesh pedestrians will often use dog whistles to disturb your guard or herding dogs and to draw them away from you. So typically, your pets aren't their target, you are the target, um, which is terrifying.
Yeah. Great.
So,
We love it.
I have pulled together a collection of stories, one of which is actually from a TikTok. So I'm like transcribing it as I'm going. So just
Okay.
bear with me
Yes.
because I'm going to get through it. But this is actually from Tiff's Ghost Talk, the one who
Oh, yeah. Okay.
flesh pedestrians. So she actually refers to them as flesh pedestrians.
Perfect.
Video.
Good old FPs.
Good old FPs, dude. So scary. And this is from January 1st. So if you wanted to go and watch the video on your own, obviously feel free. So she's recounting a story that was sent in from one of her followers, whose name is Madison. So she says, Madison lives in Southwest Georgia, and she said she lived about a mile away from something called the Alday Massacre, which I don't have a ton of background information on, but I think the name is kind of
it tells us. Yeah.
So she's about a mile away from that. And she basically says, like, Google it because it's really creepy.
Yeah.
So the first thing that she noticed is her outside cats started acting really strangely, kind of skittish. They didn't want to come around any of the men in the house, and they would only come to eat when her mom or she would call them. So it was like only responding to women, which seemed a little bizarre.
Yeah.
They'd never acted like that before, and so she thought that was strange, but she kind of blew it off. Then late one night, she had to take her dog out, and while she was out with the dog, she hears a woman scream. It's coming from the woods, and it's like clearly the sound of a woman screaming. And what Tiff says is it's got to be a coyote because she's from Kentucky, and they actually really can sound like women screaming, and we've seen that a lot of different animals that live in the woods. And then Tiff is like, well, wait, like she would know that too. So, they all kind of know what that sounds like. So she's like, okay. So she keeps reading. She's like, so she goes back inside. She calls her fiance. And she thought that was kind of the end of it. So she's trying to tell herself, like, maybe I just thought I heard it, or I didn't really hear it, or I was wrong. And it was just, like it was a coyote or something. And I just was off in my interpretation or whatever. So cut to the next night. She has to take the dog Sadie back out again. I think Sadie is such a cute name for a
Yeah,
dog.
it is. I love it.
It's so cute. So her fiance goes with her, and while they're out there, they hear this quote unquote woman screaming again. And so they look at each other, and he just says, "Run." So they run back in the house, and he gets his guns and goes back outside. And they can hear it, but he can't find anything. So he comes back in the house and he calls the cops. The cops come, they look, they don't find anything. So she's like, again, I think this is the end of it. Fast forward a few nights. She's washing, dishes in her kitchen, and she looks out, and it's nighttime, so it's dark outside. She looks out the window and sees a woman standing out there looking back at her.
Love it. Yeah.
Was home alone, so she locks the door, calls the cops. The cops come. They can't find anything or anyone. They don't even see footprints around the window. So around 3:00 in the morning, her fiance comes home. He takes the dog out. She's watching TV, and she's a bit of a night owl, so there's a lot of stuff that's happening at night. He brings the dog out, brings the dog back in, puts him in the crate, then he goes to bed. So she's still up watching TV, and then at like 6 a.m, which, girl, why are you still up?
Yeah, go to bed.
Hears the dog barking outside. So she looks outside, and her dog is out there. She sees her dog outside.
Yeah.
So she's like, that's weird. But she's looking at it, and she's like, that looks like him, like, or her, like her tail. She has this, like, she says, like, a bobtail, which I don't know what that is, but some very defining feature that this dog outside has that looks like Sadie. But she's looking, and she's like, something is off about this dog, like the eyes or something just doesn't look right. And the crate, of course, is in the living room, and that's where the front door also is. And so she opens the front door, and she's like looking.
2 thumbs up.
She's looking outside at the dog, and then she's like, wait a minute, turns to look at the crate, and Sadie is asleep in the crate.
Yeah.
So it wasn't her dog. So she's looking at her dog in the crate, and she turns and looks back outside, and the dog outside is like slowly making its way closer to the house. So she slams the door, locks it, runs to the bedroom, gets her fiance. He comes back, and it's gone. So she's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
So a lot of people, like, going back to my definition before of like, what exactly is it? A lot of people say they have to skin the animal and wear the pelt in order to take on that shape. Yeah. But it doesn't seem like that's actually always the case, that maybe some of them have that limitation, but others maybe don't, because they're able to mimic so much. So it's like that shape shifting ability. Maybe the more ancient flesh pedestrians have evolved.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but a lot of people have reported this kind of thing. So like your pet sitting in your living room is your pet. But if you see your pet out in the woods when your pet is actually right next to you, that's not your fucking pet out there. So,
oh my God. That's so scary.
Really fucking creepy. So, like I said, they can like mimic a bunch of stuff. It's just creepy as shit. So there are other things Tiff goes on to say, like, could this be the rake? Could this be a bunch of other topics that I'm actually like so interested to like dive into further? But it's just really, it seems like it's a flesh pedestrian, like of she's saying, and having that woman outside the window just looking at her.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like if they were looking for footprints outside the window, she must have been really close. Like, I was picturing someone far, but
Yeah,
she
no,
was like right there. Oh my God.
so
I would
scary.
faint.
So scary. So the other
Yeah.
theory that she had was the fact that it could be the woman, at least, could be like residual energy from this like all day massacre, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm just reminding myself now to add it to my list of things to like look up for next
Yeah.
season. Um, but also, I think I think that at least in what I've read that I mean it could be that for sure, but I think in what I've read, the flesh pedestrians are also like attracted to negative energy. So it also would make sense that it would bring an FP along.
Yes. Yes. Hmm.
So story number one.
Oh
Buckle up,
God.
baby.
Yeah.
This next one is from Tricky Anywhere, 5492. So they say, me and my girlfriend may have encountered a flesh pedestrian and need help. Hello, I'm a 17-year-old male and my girlfriend is an 18-year-old female. We were recently at her village working and we went, I think they're from the UK, just in how they talk, but I could be wrong, somewhere non US.
Yeah.
We went for a walk around 11 p.m. in her village, and the lights randomly turned off on all of the streets around us. We thought this was fine because it's normal for all the lights to be shut off there around 11 p.m. So we sat at a brick bus stop. So I was having a hard time visualizing this. It's enclosed. It's not like the glass
Oh.
half open ones that we
Mhm.
have on the street. It's like enclosed with like a door entrance on either side, is what it sounds
Okay.
like.
Yeah.
So we sat at a brick bus stop around 100 to 250 meters from her grandfather's house. We had a flashlight, so even with all the lights out, we thought it was fine. Although, even with the flashlight on, you couldn't even see a meter in front of you because it's very dark.
Yeah. Wow.
So they're sitting at this bus stop for about an hour and they're talking, they're getting into these like deep conversations. They just stopped there to chat, just to have somewhere to sit. Talking about life. At this point, it's after midnight. It's like 12:15. And I said, I think we should go home. I'm starting to get hungry. And she was like, let's just stay like 10 more minutes. And so I was like, of course, fine. So now it's about 10 minutes later, it's 12:25, and she hears a noise like someone stepping on a branch or a branch cracking and says, okay, we should go. But she didn't at the time tell him why she said that because she didn't want to make him feel paranoid. And remember, this is a brick bus stop, and there are pretty much no windows and only two exits, one next to the other. Okay, so they're
Yikes.
parallel exits.
Mhm.
Don't like that. We step out, and as soon as we step out, we hear a blood curdling, screeching scream maybe 2 meters away from us. I started screaming, what the fuck? And she shined a light at the person slash flush pedestrian. It was standing at around 180 to 190 centimeters tall, so fucking tall.
Yeah.
Legs spread out kind of to the side, not in a way that a normal human would. So we start
Yeah.
running. My girlfriend falls, and I turn back and start shouting, come at me and I'll fucking kill you, just to hear the same words screamed right back to
Oh my
me.
God. No. The
So
mimicking. Oof.
yeah, the voice and like immediately mocking him like
Yeah.
that. Hate
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
So my girlfriend gets up, starts running, and shouts, run. So we get back to the grandpa's house. We lock the doors. We stayed inside the entire night. And what's bugging me out the most is that we didn't even hear the thing come to the bus stop. Like it didn't make sound. And this is like a weird thing that seems to be a bit of a theme that they can be silent. And what they said was, as like an add-on, is they said like, could this be a flesh pedestrian? If it is, what do we do? Is it like going to know where we are now? So he adds, this happened on Easter and it did start following us like on the way back, but it didn't make any sound walking. It was like going through bushes and stuff without making a single noise.
Yeah. They're like honed to be the worst sort
Yeah.
of creature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yikes.
And someone asked, like, can you describe what it looked like? And he said he or it was pretty pale, didn't react to the flashlight shining in its face, and it had eyes like popped out staring at us. Like they
Mm.
were really like weird
Buggy.
looking eyes. And it was screaming in this like deep voice, like a deep
Yeah.
voice screaming until it mocked him, obviously, in
Hmm.
his voice. And then it just kept saying that same thing that I had shouted. So it said it
Mm.
more than once. Come in,
Yeah.
I'll fucking kill you. Like,
Great.
hate
Ew.
it, hate it,
Yeah.
hate it, hate it. Hate it.
No.
And then he clarifies this is in Lithuania. This
Oh,
was not wrong.
okay. Interesting.
Anyway,
Hmm.
someone
Very.
also commented, though, that there is a Lithuanian kind of quote unquote version of a flesh pedestrian called Araganos, but that they're typically female. So they're part of like Baltic folklore.
Lore.
So
Yeah.
another one to add to the
Yep.
list.
There we go. Our
Love
next
that.
topic.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So there's one. Next one.
Wow. Scary.
I just am gonna like,
Yeah. And they just keep getting scarier.
it's getting scarier. Okay. This is from Adventurous Run 1870. I believe I saw a flesh pedestrian. Thoughts? In all caps.
Thoughts?
So I was camping in the Lewis and Clark Forest in Montana. Sidebar, I want to go to Montana.
Mm-hmm. I have
Like,
been there. It's beautiful.
it sounds so beautiful. Like,
Yes.
that's Big Sky, right?
Yep.
Big
Yeah.
Sky.
Yeah, and like Glacier. Yellowstone is in the bottom corner. Yeah.
Wow. Oh,
Part
because
of
it
it.
borders Wyoming?
Yeah. Yellowstone is in, yeah, Wyoming, Montana. Isn't there another one? I can't remember what state. It's like so huge. It covers so much territory.
Is
But
it Wisconsin? Isn't that in
no,
that little nook?
Wisconsin is Midwest.
Midwest. What do I know? I don't look at the map of the US and I'm like, man.
It might be Idaho, like the very, very corner. But
I need to
anyway.
I need to know now how off I was.
Wisconsin is like over by Minnesota. And
Oh, that's embarrassing. Why is this just zoomed in on Boston?
it's the center of the universe.
Wyoming. Oh, wow. Just so off, dude.
Now I want to see where.
Okay, to be fair though, I was thinking that I couldn't place in my mind where North Dakota and South Dakota were. I thought maybe they were farther south, and then I thought those were moved farther east. Anyway, I'm an idiot. Is the
No, you're not.
okay? I want to go there though,
Perfect. Yep.
and then maybe I find it on a map.
Yep.
Okay, so camping in the Lewis and Clark Forest in Montana. My dad's gonna have a fucking field day with that one.
I can't wait to hear what he says.
Can't wait. Yeah, he's gonna die. Okay, so land that was in Montana, so land that was heavily populated by the indigenous, obviously, way back when. My three friends and I were hanging out by a fire, talking, joking around. And it was late, probably around midnight. And I heard what sounded like gravel being kicked on the gravel road that was over my right shoulder. So I snapped my head back, and for a split second, I saw a 10-foot tall, pale slash gray figure standing on the road. It
Whoa.
scared me so badly that I had to look away. I looked back expecting to be just as scared, but it was gone and there was nothing but just forest. So my friends and I immediately go over to where I saw this figure, and they were intrigued because they know I wouldn't make something like this up or react how I reacted if I was just like joking around.
Mhm.
And I most definitely jumped when I saw it and cursed. So they're like, okay, he's being legit. So we checked all around the area, in and out of the trees and bushes, and we heard a branch snap, what seemed like just a few trees away, but our phone flashlights weren't lighting up the area enough to see anything.
Mhm.
We said anything, and after the branch snapped, my friends were really spooked and just wanted to go into the tent. As if that's safe. Like,
Right. That's,
well, thin layer of vinyl is going to really
yeah, really
keep it.
protect you. Yeah, of
Hate
course.
it. I don't camp. This is a slew of other reasons, but that's fine. Okay, so we want to go back to the tent. I for sure was not going to sleep that night. Later, I convinced my buddy to come with me to drive out into a clearing so we could listen to some music and look at the stars because he studies astronomy in university. We rolled down the windows in the sunroof and hung out for probably 20 minutes before we got scared as shit. We could hear what sounded like a group of little girls
Oh,
chanting not too
no.
far from my car. We listened to it for maybe 20 seconds and it definitely sounded like it was getting closer. So we got out of there very quickly and went back to our campsite. We got into the tent for the night and I ended up dosing myself to sleep on and off and was abruptly woken to a high pitched scream or whistle that couldn't have been more than 50 yards away. I
Mm.
laid there in the pitch black tent by myself, thoughts running, but then I didn't hear anything else the rest of that night. This memory will forever be engraved in my head. Give me your thoughts. And someone said, "Yes, sir, you most definitely saw a Flesh Pedestrian
Yeah.
club."
Yep. Oh my
So
gosh. Little girls chanting? Ugh. I can't imagine.
I hate it so much.
Yep.
And then a bunch of people in the comments like were like, "Oh yeah, I've seen one too. Here's my story," and it's just like
Wow.
on and on. Someone described them as having gray, saggy skin and knees that bend backwards. That's a
Um,
really common, like an animal, like with hind
yeah.
leg.
Ew.
Um, long arms that end in unnaturally large hands and long pointy fingers, and completely bald headed. That's also extremely common. So, like, sometimes they'll be seen wearing like hoods, which are obviously not an animal form, but
Yeah.
if they're looking like human ish, they will wear hoods to cover their nasty ass bald heads.
Yeah.
This one said it had three chins sagging below an open, gaping mouth, barely covered
Oh,
by a sagging upper lip.
whoa. Weird.
I hate it. I hate it
Yeah.
so much. Um,
Ew.
so that's a creepy description.
Mm-hmm.
On to the next.
Okay. Yes.
This one is from Mystic Shadow 1. Me and my dad came face to face with a flesh pedestrian. Have I said the word yet? I don't think I've said it.
I don't think so. I think you've
I'm
got
doing
it.
great. Good
Yep.
job, me. Don't know where Wisconsin is, but good job otherwise. Okay. Hello. This is a real experience I had with a sheep, or what I believe to be a flesh pedestrian. A little background on me is that I am 18 years old and I like making music and I live in England. I live in a farming rich area of England and therefore I have many friends who are farmers and know the normal behavior of sheep and cattle. This particular being was definitely not normal. My dad delivered timber for hot tubs, saunas, sheds, etc., and then build them. Today, we had two deliveries, one for a shed and another for a sauna. So we got the shed out of the way and then went to deliver the sauna. It was dark at this point with a sunset in the distance. The customers were a lovely couple. They were a bit older, directed the truck to the unloading point, and the lady said she owns some sheep, Charlie and Jack. So she introduced me to Charlie, and he came running to me, which is not strange behavior for a sheep, so I thought nothing of it. I gave Charlie a few pets, and he seemed to take an interest in me. The lady said nothing. Um, the lady said, sorry, his punctuation is very bizarre.
Yeah.
He seemed to take an interest in me, the lady said. Nothing
Mm.
really weird happened at this point, apart from his eyes not looking particularly normal. Jack, I could see, had color and white in his eyes, but Charlie didn't. His eyes were more the color of soot or that Vanta black stuff. So it seemed almost like a void into his head.
Whoa.
I still wasn't super skeptical of it, though, at this point. After paying some attention to the sheep, we got to work. And at this point, there was no sign of the sun. It was just pitch black night sky with some stars. We put two lights on while we worked, one facing onto the pen that Charlie and Jack were in, and one facing toward the floor where we were going to put the timber. This job is normally an hour or two long. So as we were just unloading the wood, not building, but we got to work until I noticed something in the sheep pen. So I looked and it was Charlie, and I could tell because Charlie has those weird eyes. And I said hello, and so did Dad. And then we got back to work. but he still stood there staring at me with those creepy eyes like he wanted something, but I didn't know what. And Jack, the other one, the normal one, was asleep in his little hut. And it was late at this point, so Charlie should have also been sleeping, but he was wide awake. So we continued unloading, and Charlie is staring at us this whole time, not moving an inch, when he starts making these grunting noises. It was the only thing defining him from like an inanimate taxidermy or statue. Like he was just completely still, making these gross, like grunting noises out of nowhere.
Yeah. Ew.
So about halfway through the work, the light facing Charlie started flickering for a full minute and then went out. So we could no longer see the pen or Charlie, but we knew he was there from the grunting.
Ew.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
Yeah. We finished up after about an hour and 30 minutes, and I shined my phone torch onto the pen, but only Charlie's eyes reflected. And this was the scariest fucking thing. It looked like just two eyes in the blackness looking back at me as if he could see through the dark night. We got in the truck and turned on the lights only to see those two pairs of eyes staring back at us. We put on full beam, and there were Charlie and Jack staring back at us. And there was something about these sheep that seemed so off. They shouldn't be just standing there when people are moving around. They normally would have been spooked after hearing the banging of the car boot closing or the engine starting, but they were just frozen still staring at us. My dad isn't normally scared of these things, but this one time he was really, really scared, which is super weird for me to see as he's never believed in anything like Flesh Pedestrians or anything along those lines. Anyway, not sure what to think. Curious how it would sound to real people.
Real people.
I just find that to be so eerie.
Yes.
Like it's not like oh, for sure that's what it is.
Yeah.
But there's just so eerie about it. And the eyes, when it's in animal form, is something that everyone says. The eyes are just off.
Yeah.
And I've seen some photos that my novice eye do not appear to be edited. And they're terrifying. Like deer, because you know deer's eyes are kind of on the sides a little bit.
Yep.
Look outward.
Yeah.
Where they're on the front and they're looking forward. It's usually they're light colored too, so they look like blue, like human eyes. It's fucking creepy.
Yeah. Just any that, like, I can totally feel that sensation of like something is off here. Ooh, and that's just so scary.
They elicit for sure.
Yeah.
So okay, this one is from Dumois, Doumoi. So they say, I need an explanation. I encountered a skinwalker. Damn it, I said it.
Oops. Okay.
Flesh Pedestrians.
One strike.
One strike. Okay. This was probably when I was around 12, so 2021. I was out with a few friends downtown, and where I live, there's a huge forest near me. So me and my dumbass friends had the idea to go in there. We were walking for about a mile until we came across... Can you hear that?
No.
Oh, okay. His printer just turned on and I was like, oh my God, that's so loud.
No,
sorry. We were walking for about a mile until we came across an abandoned shed-like building. But there was a massive hole in the roof and there was wrecked furniture strewn about. So we went inside. Why? Why'd you go inside?
Bad idea.
Yep. So we went inside and there was shattered glass all over the ground. My friend found some porno magazine on the ground. It looked very old. And he had the brilliant idea to whistle as loud as he could and say, holy shit. We hear one back, a whistle, but it sounded very far away. And I was confused as to who did it because like the friends are all there in the place.
Yeah.
So this time I whistled and in return hear a blood-curdling scream. At this point, I was terrified, and there's the four of us just standing there. So one of my friends decides to go back out, and the house... he went out of the house and then told us to follow along. So we walked outside, and we saw a deer with white eyes
Oh.
staring straight at us. My friend said, "Should I whistle?" And then I was
Why?
like, "Dude, what if it's a flesh pedestrian?" So the deer stood up on its hind legs. We
um,
started to back away, and then I said, "Run," and bolted as fast as I could, as far away from that thing, and didn't stop for at least a quarter of a mile. But I could hear something screaming in the distance. My friend caught up to me and said it attacked so and so, one of their friends. And upon hearing this information, I began to run as fast as I could until I was out of the woods. Three of us made it out alive, but
what?
bruised and out of breath.
Did
We
someone
all,
not?
no, he did.
Oh, okay.
We all waited for our fourth friend to come out, and we were just standing on the edge of the woods for a good 15 minutes. Finally, after what felt like ages, my friend came out of the forest with a grin on his face and not a single scratch on him. We never went in those woods
Ew.
again.
What?
What the fuck happened?
Yeah. A grin?
And people are
Ew.
like, "Oh, it got that friend."
Yeah. Yeah, probably shouldn't be friends with him anymore.
That one
Oh,
really, really freaked
that
me
is
out.
so scary.
Hate it. Hate it. Hate it. Hate it.
Oof, yeah.
All right, next one. Lacey B 122284. And then I'm gonna pick it up. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm like
no.
really drawing this out.
I love it.
Okay. I believe I am being hunted by a
Okay.
skinwalker. What do I
Great.
do now? About 6 months ago, I was driving home from a friend's place very late at night. I was on SR 163 and was just outside of Laughlin, Nevada, I guess.
Yeah.
As I was, but SR 163, that doesn't sound like a US road, but
State
maybe
state road?
route?
Route?
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know.
Um, so as I was twisting and turning through the mountains, my high beam suddenly caught the sight of a large, dark, quote unquote, animal on all fours, crouched and apparently eating something. It had reflective green eyes that glowed in the
Oh.
headlights. As my car sped closer, the creature stood up on its back legs and started to haul ass away from the road. Around the backside of the hill it was just sitting on, and it was huge, but very agile and fast. As I got closer, I could make out more details. It had a face like a dog, a long, profound muzzle, and was covered in dark brown or maybe black fur. It darted to the backside of the hill and out of sight, and I was completely dumbfounded. I tried to make sense of what I had just seen, ruling out logical explanations. It looked like a wolf, but was bipedal. It was covered in hair like a bear, but again, no bear can really run like that on its hind legs. It had sort of shape shifted from its wolf like animal form into a very large humanoid, long legs with a huge stride. It sounds so much like the other story I was reading.
Yeah.
Um, it never stumbled or tripped as it bolted through the rocky desert terrain. I was suddenly terrified and could not drive any faster away from this monster because I was convinced at this point it was a monster. I got home and relayed my story to my sister, still shaking and crying a little bit as I recalled as many details as I could. Fast forward 6 months, and I have not seen this creature again. I drive through the same mountains many times a month, and every time I pass through this stretch of road, my heart races and in full alert panic mode. I always have the sensation that I'm being watched or followed, and I've tried to pinpoint exactly what I saw, and the best explanation seems to be the indigenous equivalent to Lord Voldemort, which is a flesh pedestrian.
Mm.
I am not Native American, whiter than Wonder Bread, so I could be wrong, but nothing else seems to fit the bill. Since having this experience, though, I've been having recurring nightmares. In my dream, which I have a few times a week, so a
Wow.
lot,
Mhm.
I'm running barefoot through the woods and I'm being chased by a wolf. The dream is so real, I can smell the trees, feel the wind on my face, and the dirt and leaves under my feet. Eventually, the wolf catches me by the ankle and I fall to the ground. I spin around to face the wolf and it has me pinned on my back and it's snarling, growling. And just before it tears into my chest, I wake up, either crying or completely out of breath. Then, starting about 2 days ago, every so often out of the corner of my eye, I see a large black animal creeping up on me.
Mm.
In
Okay.
addition to the visual image of the creeper, I keep smelling something rancid, like rotting meat, and I'm the only one in the house that smells anything. I'm truly scared that I'm experiencing this during the day. I do not know what to do. I can't sleep. I'm scared to be alone. And from the scarce research I've been able to do, I think I might be in serious trouble. Can anyone help me out?
Yeah. What did people say about?
People were just like, are you okay? And they said like more stuff is happening. Like it hasn't like attacked or anything, but it's just getting like creepier and creepier. But this is from about a year ago, and they didn't start responding until maybe 6 months ago. So they're
Okay.
just kind of slow to respond on here, it
Yeah.
sounds like. But I probably would be too if I felt like I was being stalked by a fucking
Yeah.
flesh pedestrian. It'd be
Yeah.
scary.
The smell thing is
Yeah.
very
It's really
spooky.
not. And allegedly, they can also make you have bad dreams,
Mm, yeah.
which is so creepy.
All signs point to
Yeah.
FP.
FP, baby. Okay, this is the last one, and then I just have one like honorable mention because it really creeped me out.
Okay.
This is from Rick X Show 1. I saw a flesh pedestrian while visiting my dad. This was back when I was 15 and I live in Northern Europe. I sometimes visited my dad who lived in a forest, but this was my first encounter with what I believe was a flesh pedestrian. So let the story begin. When I was 15, I visited my dad a lot because he was very lonely living out in the woods, and I also wanted to spend some quality time with him. And he had one rule: do not go out at wow, blah, 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 blah. Do not go outside at night unless you bring firewood or in an emergency. I originally believed him because I knew that outside could be dangerous with wolves, bears, whatever. Okay, fine. Like, didn't think too much of it. So the first encounter happened when it was a warm summer evening and I was outside practicing aiming with my dad's air gun that shot small pieces of metal at targets. I eventually got pretty good at using it until my dad came out of the small cabin where he held the rifles that I used, and he told me that he's going back into the house and I should also be inside in about an hour because it's getting dark. I sighed but agreed because I knew the nights are potentially dangerous, so I shot my final shots until I got this really ill feeling and felt as though someone was watching me.
Mm.
The feeling made my heart do flips, and it was beating at what felt like 200 kilometers per second. I got terrified, and when I looked around, what I think I saw was a humanoid figure looking at me from the woods nearby the cabin, which I was standing next to. I couldn't make out the figure because it was kind of dark outside already, so I got scared, obviously, and put the rifle away and ran to my dad's house, which was pretty big. So, now to make the story a little more understandable for context, my dad's house was in the middle of a small plain that was a rectangular shape, and his house was at one side of the rectangle, and the cabin was on the other side. The plain was pretty big, about 600 meters long and 100 meters wide, and the plain didn't have any trees, but everything outside the plain was covered by a huge forest. So, like, tons of miles long. Like, he doesn't
Yeah.
even know how big it is. I got inside and for some reason decided to talk to my dad about the encounter. And he told me that he had seen it too, but thought that it could be just from being tired or from drinking too much. He sat me down and told me that if I was telling the truth, it could be a very weird creature known as a flesh pedestrian. I asked my dad if he could tell me anything else about it, and he told me that the flesh pedestrian is a shape shifting creature and it lives in the woods of typically American nature. And he told me a bunch of other stuff. I now don't remember the details. We watched TV, ate, went to sleep. I was sleeping when suddenly woke up because I needed some water. And then I heard a distorted, inhuman scream that I couldn't fully make out. I wasn't scared and slowly walked to the second floor bathroom, which my bedroom was right next to look outside the window because my room didn't have a window. And what I saw terrifies me to this day. This thing was the same thing as before, but I could actually make out the details of the creature. It wasn't terribly tall, but probably 6 feet, and not dark, but pale white. And it had milky white eyes that pierced the night. And then the creature screamed again. And this time he started to run not towards me, but to the other side of the house where my dad's truck was parked. I
Mm.
ran from the bathroom to my brother's room, which was on the other side, opposite the bathroom I was in. I looked outside, and the figure lightly hit my dad's car, and the car starts blasting the alarm, to which my dad woke up. I told my dad to come to the window that I was next to, and we both looked at how the creature kept hitting my dad's car again and
Mm,
again, and then ran into the forest. And he repeatedly kept trying it. So he would like hit
mhm.
the car, run into the forest, come back, hit it. He was like trying to get a reaction from them.
Yeah. Ooh.
He ran to the house and started banging on the doors and windows, but wasn't able to get in.
Oh God.
That is so scary. Like being
Yeah.
alone in the woods and this is happening.
That's chilling.
Me and my dad slowly walk down the stairs into the living room to see what the hell's going on. And then we hear a knock on the front door.
Oh.
Not banging this time, a knock. And there was a voice, our neighbor's voice, saying, "Please let me in. I need to borrow
Ugh.
some batteries."
No.
Me and
No.
my dad were terrified. So we
Mhm.
just stayed still and waited, not saying anything. We finally realized that the sun was coming up and it was already getting brighter, and finally the knocking stopped. We looked outside every window and concluded that the creature had finally left. We sighed a sigh of relief, ate some breakfast, and started doing normal things, but we did not go outside that day, and it was not the last we saw of that creature.
Oh no.
He said, goes on to say, I've had more interactions with him. He has like some blurbs about the other ones, but this one was the most intense. But they're all like this. Like it's like trying to bait them, lure them outside using like mimicry, voice
Mhm.
mimicry, all that, get
Yeah.
them to come see. So gross.
Ugh. Yeah.
Um,
I need to borrow batteries. That is creepy. I don't. Yeah. I don't know.
so
Weird.
so the last thing is, can skinwalkers? God damn it!
Strike two. You're
That's
almost out.
I know. Well, thankfully, there aren't that many other opportunities for me to fuck it up. It's something about the heading. It's hard for me not to
Yeah.
say. Okay,
Yeah.
can flesh pedestrians morph into other people? So obviously, they can
Mhm.
morph into kind of whatever animal they want, but this is really a scary thought
Mhm.
because the idea is that again, if we're going to assume they have the limitation that they have to skin an animal and wear the pelt in order to take on its form, could they skin a human and
Ew.
that human?
That's
Yeah.
disturbing.
So people don't know,
Mhm.
obviously. But what people do say is like flesh pedestrians, when they are in their humanoid form,
Mhm.
tend to look like they're wearing a human suit and walking in that way versus
Yeah.
walking the way a person would normally. The way their body parts move is an odd, kind of unnatural wave. If they like, there's one person said, I've heard stories that say when a flesh pedestrian tries to wave in order to get you to approach them, their arm will move more like a tentacle or a rubber arm rather than a normal, like hinged human arm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just
And then, of
picturing
course, that.
like one of those blow up guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, and then just like the horrible feeling you get from them. But
Yeah.
it feels to me like maybe, like, whose skin are they wearing then?
Right.
Ugh, hate it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
Mhm.
just some nice little food for thought for you.
Yeah, that's
So,
what a
that's
nice thought to
flesh
put
pedestrians.
in our minds. Yeah.
Yeah. You like that?
Great. Well, those are so scary. And I'm
I know.
sure we could do like 12 more episodes just about those.
Just
That's,
reading the stories, I mean, I really had to pare it down.
yeah.
Unfortunately picked two that had like really rough punctuation, and I should have just fixed the punctuation because they, yeah, but it's fine.
No, I didn't really notice. I think you were great.
All right,
Okay,
Amy, what's your topic?
cool. Mine is camping or campsites, basically. I think this is kind of a combo, sort of all of our wilderness type
Yeah,
episodes, because we have quite a lot of those because it is so interesting and like prevalent.
and eerie.
Yeah,
Why is it so scary? Like,
yeah. Because
I don't
when,
know, the unknown, I guess.
yeah, and like with ghosts in a haunted house or something, it's kind of like, okay, maybe something happened here, but out in the wilderness, it feels more like monsters than
Yeah. No,
ghosts.
that's true. That's
So,
really
yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to start with one that I did for the original episode because I was like, oh my God, I forgot about all of this.
true. Yeah.
So, okay, this one is Braley Pond in Virginia. And this, yeah, really creeped me out. So, it's a popular fishing spot. It's in Charlottesville. It's Virginia's most haunted campground. There are rumors of disembodied laughter, floating figures, and other unearthly activity escalated after a gruesome murder took place there in 2003.
I don't
And
remember this at all.
I didn't either, but in the original episode, I remember talking about this murder. It was absolutely horrible, so let's just not talk about it anymore. But it was in 2003. And not long after the murder, there was a paranormal researcher named Shay Willis, who I think I read her blog or maybe she had done a podcast or something. That was my main source originally.
Mhm.
She visited there and she immediately started feeling sick and like full of dread. And just before midnight, she and the people she went there with heard something moving quickly in the water and like splashing very violently. And they obviously started running away from the water because they were like, even if this is a fish, it's much larger than
Yeah.
anything should be in this pond. Um, so they run away, and she said she felt a heavy weight hit her in the back and
Mm.
like the sensation of something crawling all over her.
I
So
hate that.
yeah, she made it home, but ever since then, she has continued to feel like something is on her, like physically on her
No.
and haunting her. So she said it's like little bits and pieces of that experience are still stuck with me. So yeah, that's that one. I can't remember. I should have looked up what episode number this was, but if you want more detail, go to our first episode of
Camping.
camping. And in that episode, I think you did one called Lake Morena, or at least I remember this one.
Mm.
Um, this one, I'll just give a quick recap because it's also scary. It's another lakeside campground um, near the Mexican border, and it's had unexplained activity for at least 40 years. So,
Jesus.
yeah. On October 26th, 1983, the San Diego Union ran a story with the headline, More Than Fish Haunt Marina.
Mm.
At the time, park volunteers and rangers attested to witnessing levitating bodies, hearing heavy footsteps when nobody was around, and seeing an old man in their peripheral vision. On one occasion, a ranger hosted a relative in his house, which was on the property since he was a ranger there. And she woke in the night to see a baby's christening gown floating across the room. It floated to her, brushed her cheek, floated back to where she had first seen it, and disappeared entirely.
Having it touch you and like feel it is
Yeah,
weird.
it's,
Seeing it, you're like, "Ah, I could have dreamt that," but like
yeah,
feeling it too
mhm,
is so
yeah,
visceral. Ugh.
um, unacceptable.
Yeah.
So
Unacceptable.
it's irresponsible and unacceptable.
I love it.
So, yeah, in the years since, guests have reported similar experiences like what she said. So,
That's
um,
what she said.
that's what she said. That is what she said. But um, a new one that we did not do that is not particularly like I didn't choose this because there's a lot of haunting stories, but it has become like this really big thing. So it's Big Moose Lake in New York. And the hauntings here are mostly like seeing an apparition of a woman, probably wearing white, old timey lady. Um, and the reason that people are seeing this, so they say, is that there was a woman named Grace Brown. She was murdered in 1906 on the lake. So the backstory was that she was, I think, 20 years old, and she had been seeing this man named Chester Gillette. And she got pregnant, but knew that he had other women in his life, and she was like begging him to get married, but he didn't want to. So instead, he took her out in a canoe, hit her
No.
with a tennis racket, and pushed her in the water knowing that she couldn't swim. So he murdered her.
Great.
Um, yes. So he thankfully was found guilty. This was 1906. And he was actually executed for this in 1908. So they took it very seriously.
Harsh, but
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yes. They took it as seriously as you possibly could. So,
Yeah.
but the thing that is so interesting about this one is that there was a article in the New York Times from 2006, and it was called "Century After Murder: American Tragedy Draws Crowd." And I think this is like a semi, like, I never know, semi-annual, does that mean multiple times a year? Or is it like occasionally, not annually, but
I think biannual would be twice a year. Semi-annual would be every few years or every two
okay.
years, I guess.
Okay,
Right?
that's what I'm trying to say, but I never know for sure.
Fortnightly version of.
Yeah, yes. It's
Okay.
every once in a while, people come, like on the anniversary of her murder, people flock to this town basically. And in the article, they said it's historians, writers, psychics, musicians, etc. They flock here both in memory of Grace, but also because there was a book written about this. It was An American Tragedy by Theodore Dreiser. And
I
yeah,
haven't read it, but I've heard of that.
yep, it's very famous. It was written in 1925, and it was actually
Wow.
also adapted to film. And it was
Mm.
A Place in the Sun with Elizabeth Taylor, Montgomery
Oh my
Clift, and
god.
Shelley Winters. So,
Oh my god.
yeah,
Okay. Wow.
it became a very well known story. But
Yeah.
yeah, the psychic that they mentioned in this particular article, she was there because she wanted to help release the spirit from the lake. So,
Totes.
yeah, I don't know. That was just interesting because it's not like the hauntings are constant or especially scary or anything, but it's such a huge phenomenon,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So,
That's so interesting. And like why that one?
I
You know
know.
what I mean?
That's what I was
Like
thinking too. Because we have several stories of like a young woman who was murdered, and then we see her apparition around. But
or what was that one where they were like riding a horse in the house?
mhm. I think that
And
was
that's
in
another one.
Australia.
And that one like blew up. And it's like, why that one? Like idiots.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
Yeah, it's
right.
interesting.
Didn't
Like
he
what
like
draws attention.
right? Didn't he like ride off the veranda or something and break his neck?
Yes,
Yeah,
I think so. That sounds about right.
yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Anyway, I mean, like, good. Like, I guess, like her story deserves
Yeah,
attention. So do a lot of others. So it's like,
yeah,
what about I want to see A Place in the Sun now to see what's so like sensationalized about it, I guess. That's so compelling.
yeah. I know it is interesting. And the way it described the people also that were coming there, it was like history buffs who were trying to find like connections for with from
Mhm.
their family with these people, which is like,
Oh,
why do you really want that? Especially because some
yeah.
people came and they were like, I have the tennis racket that was used to commit the crime. And it's like, why do you want that?
Morbid. Like,
Yeah.
people are morbid weirdos.
Yeah.
Like, we're also morbid
Yeah.
weirdos, everything.
Yeah.
But not to the point where I would like collect a murder weapon.
No.
That's different.
No.
That's far,
Yeah.
I would argue.
Yeah. Or to be, yeah, just excited about something like that. Like it was, I found this tennis racket in my great grandfather's attic and he was friends with so and so, so it must be
Yeah.
the murder weapon. Like that's just kind of
Which
weird.
is like probably not,
Yeah.
but okay.
Yeah. So
That's
anyway,
an interesting
yeah, that's Big Moose Lake. Um, so then let's just read a couple stories from Reddit. So this was the original was from Milkshake Socks 8823.
Ew.
I know. Ew. Actually, yeah, I didn't put together what that's probably meaning
Ew.
until now. Okay.
Yeah, I don't like that.
So they wanted to know what's the creepiest thing you've witnessed camping in a forest or national park.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I should have pulled these out. So let's see if I can find the ones I liked the most.
I believe in you.
Okay. So this is from Cocoa Poop. Like hot
Wow.
cocoa. Poop. Yeah. So, okay. When I was younger, my family used to own a camp in the deep outskirts of Powers, Michigan. It was a hand built log cabin with no indoor plumbing or electricity, mainly used for hunting, but my dad decided we'd spend our spring break there. Fast forward to the first couple nights, it had an upstairs loft where there were 4 to 5 beds scattered along. My sister and dad were snoring and they were loud, so I couldn't sleep. I was on my iPod Nano, throwback to 2008, playing games. Right as I felt myself getting more tired, I heard this loud buzzing sound from above. It vibrated the walls. I looked up out the skylight expecting a plane or an aircraft passing, but instead I saw this weird assortment of colors, kind of like if you've ever seen a transformer explode. That rainbow flash.
Or like how they spark,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah. She says that's how it resembled or what it resembled. And it entirely covered the glass, almost like it was coming closer. I panicked
Oh,
and threw a pillow at my dad to wake him up. As soon as I did that, it disappeared. Again, this was the middle of nowhere. We had no electricity and no plumbing. I still can't explain this experience to this day. So,
that's weird. Also,
aliens.
that sucks because like aliens for sure,
Yeah.
dude. That also like sucks because then your dad's like, "What?
Yeah.
What?"
Why did you wake me up?
There was something out there. And he's like, "Go back to
Yeah.
sleep.
Uh-huh.
Wake me up."
Anytime you get a dad involved, then it's just not happening anymore. I don't I don't know why.
That's just nature's way of being like, "We're gonna get you in
Yeah.
trouble."
Yeah. Exactly.
Thought you were scared before?
Mhm.
Buckle up,
Yeah.
baby.
It's about to get worse.
He pokes the bear.
Yes. Okay. Here's another one. This is Eggs Benedict.
What? Why are you getting the weirdest names?
Yeah.
Eggs Venus is fun, funny.
But yeah, that's dicked as in Dicked. Yeah.
Nice.
So anyway, this is my dad's story, but when he was a kid in the 60s, he was in the Boy Scouts and would go camping with his troop in the Appalachian Mountains.
Nice. Well
One night, after having fallen asleep in his tent, he woke up standing alone a few feet away from a sheer drop. It was
done. Oh
still
God.
it was still dark and he had no flashlight or gear, not even shoes. He had to find
Oh
his
my God.
way back to the campsite by moonlight. When he got back, no one had realized he was gone. He says that if he hadn't woken up when he did, he would have walked off the cliff and that no one would have known what happened to him. So, could be sleepwalking, but
Fuck.
if that's
But I
the
feel like if they had a history of sleepwalking, they would have
Mhm.
said that.
Yeah, right. or had people like keep an eye on him if he
Yeah,
was at risk of doing that. Um, yeah,
that's
creepy.
scary.
Yeah, don't like that.
Mm-mm.
Okay, let's
And also
find.
just the idea of just even minus the sheer cliff, just waking up barefoot in the middle of the woods is
Mhm.
like, oh,
And
I'm good.
lost. Yeah, no.
Yeah, hard pass.
Yeah, we'll skip that. So, okay, I had one that featured some mimicking. So let's find that one. Okay.
Mimicking
Um,
is really scary to me, especially when it's
Mimicking.
immediately like you
Yeah,
say it and they say it right back in
yeah,
your voice.
yeah.
No,
No.
I'm good.
Yeah, and yeah, I know we've talked about that before. Like, if I hear my mom's voice in the forest, I'm gonna like want to go toward it.
I go look for
That's,
her.
yeah,
Yeah,
so scary.
terrifying.
Okay, this is from Taco Skiva. So, had two things happen in one night, both involving the same friend, both involving my need to go to the bathroom at around 10 p.m. So, I left our site to use the restrooms, which were about a quarter mile away. It's pitch dark. As I was walking, I see one of my friends who is with us walk from a path leading to an unused site onto the main path. This unused site path was a good 50 yards away from our site's path. My friend has a very noticeable and peculiar gait, so I knew it was him. At multiple points, he turned around and asked, "Why are you following me?" Always a good 40 or so feet ahead of me. I would reply, "I literally told you guys I was going to the bathroom," and question, "Why did you come from a different site?" He picked his pace up, and I eventually lose him in the darkness. I get
What?
very weird. I get to the restrooms without seeing him, take my shit, and upon returning to my site, where he, of course, is, I start asking why I'm being fucked with. Everyone denies that my friend even left.
Ew.
Yeah. 3 a.m. rolls around. I wake up needing to pee. No need to walk to the restrooms this time. I'll just walk off into the woods a bit. As I walk back, I hear the distinct sound of a tent zipper opening in the darkness, and in the darkness, I can tell it's my friend. Then I can barely see, but definitely hear him zip it back up. As I get closer to the tents, I see him more clearly, and he walks a bit. He goes to light a cigarette. I can see his face in the flint strikes of the lighter, even clearer when it manages to catch. He lights his cigarette, takes a puff, and says, "Can you hear me?" Me, "Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?" Again, much louder this time. "Can you hear me?"
Oh my god.
Me, "Yeah, you trying to wake everyone up?" He kind of shakes his head at me, then turns and walks toward the car, maybe 30 feet away from him. Thinking I'm being fucked with again, I go to follow. I lose him behind a car. I turn the corner, and he's nowhere to be seen. I'm pissed. He thinks he's
What?
so funny. So I go back to his tent. It's still closed, and I can hear him faintly snoring inside.
Ew.
Yeah. I don't know what it was, but it looked, sounded, and walked just like my friend. So,
Being able to match the gait is
mhm,
really,
yeah,
especially because they so often are like, if we're talking flesh pedestrian, they're so often walking creepily, like not right.
yeah,
But maybe it was a mimic. I don't know.
yeah, I
I
know.
don't like that at all.
And like, how do they know? Do they have to watch someone for a while to pick up these nuances? Or, I don't know.
No. Or if something
It's,
is really, maybe it's like also being intuitive about what feature people will recognize. Like,
mhm,
what's the most obvious thing when you see that
yeah,
person?
hmm,
And being able to capture that one thing is probably
yeah,
enough to lure people. Ew, I
yeah,
hate that.
yeah. I don't like that either. Okay. There's so many more of these. I didn't even read all of them. Let's just pick a random one, see how it goes.
Ooh, yeah. Love
um, okay, let's find one that has a lot of comments on it.
that. Oh, hell yeah. It's like roulette, scary story.
Let's see. Okay, let's just pick this one. It's Sith Trainer. We'll see how this
Love
goes. I was a stupid kid, somewhere from 13 to 16, fascinated with hunting, but did not grow up from a family that ever hunted. I got my first BB gun and I went into the woods to see what I could get. I remember coming to a part of the woods where it was a swamp and there used to be an old farmhouse, which when I was younger, like 2 to 3, used to be still standing, but at the time was nothing more than just the foundation and chimney. It was dusk out, everything was gray and shadows, and I heard huge wings and saw a large bird land on the top of a dead tree. I saw its body shape and thought it was some owl or something, which now looking back, I love them and how majestic they are, and well, their punctuation is weird. I love them and how majestic they are, and stupid and probably illegal to hunt. I don't know. I had a
Oh,
fascination with nature and lack of knowledge of hunting, but I was a stupid kid and shot anyway, so tried to shoot the bird. As I saw the large bird drop, not quite sure what it actually was, it made a horrible screech on its way down to the ground, and I instantly regretted what I did. No less than a second later, the whole woods started screeching and howling with the most terrible sound I have ever heard. I heard it in the trees around me, um, like this weird screeching, more like whooping, like 100 things started howling. Jeez, they
oh,
said whooping like 100 times in here. Started coming from every direction around me. Okay. I ran home, which was about a quarter mile from where I was, as quick as I could run. I only remembered this now and have looked up every owl distress call I could find, and I couldn't find anything similar to what I heard that night. Needless to say, I'm an avid outdoorsman and I have the utmost respect for nature and the creatures that live in it, and would never want to hunt anything unless it were to feed me and my family. But that night was one of the most eerie things I've experienced in the woods. So that was a
La
good.
Lechuza.
What?
La Lechuza is what it
Yeah.
sounds like.
If it had
The
long
owl
hair, a wig.
photo.
I'll never forget.
But some of those stories from the La Lechuza episode, those are scary.
Yeah.
Of it like pounding on the door and like
Yeah.
cackling,
Hmm.
whistling.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Awful. Yeah. Well,
Just like by chance took one down.
yeah.
So
I know. With a BB
marked.
gun, even.
Yeah, he's marked forever.
Yeah, probably so.
But don't they go for little kids? Isn't that
Hmm.
their
Oh,
whole
yeah.
vibe?
That's true. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Could be.
Didn't expect it to have a defense
Yeah.
weapon.
Right. That is
Oh
a
my
good point.
god.
Yeah. Well,
Scary outdoors
mhm.
stories today.
Yeah.
Shit. Well,
Yeah.
you guys, we have one episode left to the end of the
Wow.
season. Can you
Yeah.
believe it? Which I
No.
can't.
Mm-mm.
We will have confirmation on season 4 timing next
Mhm.
episode. But you'll have to wait for more details on that.
Yes.
Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, on
Mhm.
Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Please rate and review us.
Yes.
Unless you're going to give us less than 5
Yeah.
stars, then just kidding. Also,
Mhm.
word of mouth really helps. So we're
Yeah.
trying to get our reach up, have more people hear, see our podcast.
Mhm.
So, yeah, if you like it, share it
Yeah.
because there's so many weirdos like us out
Mhm.
there. So share it.
Yeah.
You can follow us on socials at Girls Gone Spooky. You can email us your scary stories at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com.
Mhm.
And until next week, stay spooky.
Stay spooky. Bye.
Bye.